And we are live. I want to thank everyone for tuning in to a very special edition of Off the Record on the People's Podcast this afternoon. We have a magnificent guest with us today, one who is going to give us some amazing information as well as inspiration, and that is none other than the legendary captain himself, but also a great friend and brother to our family and to many of you who've had the honor of knowing him and the pleasure of knowing him. And he's been a recurring guest on the People's Podcast. We are forever grateful for you, sir, and your kind words and actions and deeds. None other than Brother Captain Wali Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Walaikum salam, sir.
This means a lot to myself, my family, and the viewing audience of the People's Podcast that you would take time out of your busy schedule to come on the People's Podcast. The first question that we have for you today, sir, is we want to go straight to the Savior's Day message of 2024, delivered by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and reflect on his words. Can you let us know some of the things that came about from the speech to you, sir?
Well, my brother, first of all, I thank you very much for the honor of being on your very distinguished platform. I'm very humbled at the opportunity to be here. And I give Allah praise and thanks for you, for your wonderful parents, and for your whole family. And I don't take it lightly. I don't take it for granted to be here with you. Before we talk about Savior's Day, I'd like to first acknowledge this day, the 4th of July, the Independence Day of the Nation of Islam, established by the great Mahdi himself, Master Fard Muhammad, to whom praise is due forever and ever and ever.
Yes, sir.
He is, as the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has taught us, he is the first perfect human being.
Mm-hmm.
The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has taught us that this man, the great Mahdi, he represents the originator of the heavens and the earth.
Mm.
Now, we throw words around a lot, but I try not to, particularly words from his lips to our ear. Represent means to present a thing again in another form.
Yes, sir.
So when you think of the great Mahdi and his unlimited power, you're looking at a man who represents the originator. That means he has that power, even as the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is the national representative of his teacher.
Yes, sir.
What his teacher is what he is. And so as the originator is, so is Master Fard Muhammad. And he chose the most honorable Elijah Muhammad to make all up into his self. And those two guided a man, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And I want to say, I notice people have a problem calling him honorable. But, not to hurt anybody, but I know judges who visit strip joints. I know judges who take lap dances. But when you in that courtroom on Monday morning at 9 o'clock, if you don't regard him as your honor, the bailiff will step to you and say, refer to the judge as your honor. We can do that. But a man who is given everything to establish this day under the guidance of the two that back him, we seem to have a problem referring to him as honorable. I have a problem with that. So the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, who will always be that to me.
Yes, sir.
Established under the guidance of God Almighty and the great Messiah this day as the Independence Day. And even as Savior's Day in the beginning was a small event, it kept growing. It kept growing. It kept growing. So will the Independence Day of the Black man and woman of America. It's going to keep growing. It's going to keep getting bigger. More and more people are going to come under it because it is the will of Allah, what the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan says and does. Now, Savior's Day 2024. One of the most important things that stuck out to me early in the sermon, well, he referred to himself as gold. He said, I wanted you to see what gold looks like.
Yes, sir.
And people who looked with the eye thought that he was talking about the beautiful gold suit and the gold fez. Not so. Gold is the standard of value. That's what it is. You hear the financial world use the term the gold standard. They'll say that, paper money comes and goes. In the news, a lot of countries are stepping back from the American dollar. They call it the petrodollar. But gold, ain't nobody stepping back from gold. You understand? Because
yes,
it is of historical value. It doesn't change. In fact, Brother Joshua, the bankers, J.P. Morgan Chase and others, have been fined hundreds of millions of dollars for manipulating the precious metals markets. That means they work to suppress the price of gold. Some analysts say instead of $2,400 an ounce, it should be about $41,000 an ounce if they did not manipulate the market. So gold is of great, great importance. And the man of God said, I wanted you to see what gold looks like. Gold is also the greatest conductor of electricity. When you use a hi-fi equipment,
yes, sir.
The best jack is ones that are gold plated because they can handle the current better than any other kind.
Teaching.
The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has taught us for every spiritual truth, there's a physical reality. So while you're looking at gold, look at him. He's the real gold. He is the most refined being among us to transmit the pure, absolute, pure, powerful wisdom and spirit of God himself. That's who you're looking at in the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So he speaks of gold.
Yes, sir.
Early in the sermon, he says what? I know I'm going to shake up the world.
That's right.
Well, what they told me to tell you. Look at what has happened since February 25th. My God. You can go right now today to this storm called Beryl, a storm that broke all the records. There ain't never been a Category 5 in the history of record keeping to occur in the month of June. Unheard of. The boy keep going across land and getting strong again and going back up. And last week, it wasn't going to be nowhere near Texas. Not Texas is in the crosshairs. What kind of unusual storm is this? But look at what happened all over the earth. You got now the student protest. Remember?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
They took it off the news because the Zionists who control the media, And we're going to get into that soon, particularly the fella, Mr. Netanyahu, and his origin. But they keep the news of people protesting. If you recall, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan wrote us a letter and said, don't leave your post. Even though they're protesting, don't go join them. That's not our way, because he knew it was growing. People are protesting. Remember, he told Mr. Biden in words to grow some gonads?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, he been kind of standing up, which is one of the reasons why they're now creating the chorus call to get rid of him.
Hmm.
Oh, yeah. Look what happened in the Middle East. In February, Israel was slaughtering Hamas. The Houthis, or actually the Yemenis, they weren't there then. They weren't there in February, but they jumped in it. Then you got what? You got Hezbollah that's jumped in it. What's all of this about? Go back and study the words of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. I mean, the man is so bold. He said, God and the great Messiah told me to tell you. What? What? Now listen, brother. If he's not a truthful man, then nothing he said, you will see it come to pass. Look at the biggest revelation, or one of the biggest, was the fact that Mr. Netanyahu not only knew about the Hamas attack on October 7th, but he sanctioned it.
Yes, sir.
And then a week later, the New York Times said, yeah, he sanctioned it. He knew about it. Remember, he talked about the picture that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad sent to him late in the night. He
Yes,
said,
sir.
then he sent him another one the next night, only bigger. Well, how do you get this? What does that mean? You think he's just saying that?
Hmm.
Believers, we need to study more so we can be more effective witnesses of the revelation of God to the man among us today, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. We really, really need to humble ourselves and study, because that's what study is. It's a display of humility. It's a statement, what? I don't know. That's what study is. I don't know. But if you won't study and then don't seek to grow in understanding, what kind of witness are you looking to become? Not a good one for sure. So anyway, that's just a couple of points on Savior's Day, my brother. But it's such a dynamic sermon. I mean, we should be indefatigable in our understanding of it and explanation of it to all who would listen. We should never grow tired of it. Those in the class of ministry, you should never get up off of it. What you got to talk about? If Allah told his servant to be quiet, that don't mean for you to be quiet. You're supposed to open your mouth, because he's watching all. Just like he watching world events, he's watching those who are supposed to be with him too, who are supposed to be his chief defenders.
Yes, sir. Yes,
but you
sir.
can't defend if your mouth is closed. Yeah.
Excellent. Yes, sir. And thank you, Brother Captain. The people are bearing witness all around the world and across the country. Thank you all for watching and showing positive, sending positive love and energy to Brother Captain Wali. I want to stay right here dealing with Savior's Day. This past, Savior's Day 2024, being there, the spirit was very high. It was one of the best Savior's Days I've ever been to. And one of the things that came to mind was shortly after that, even though the spirit was still high, we took a hit with our brother Benny Mahdi, and we are still sending positive love energy to his family. Shout out to Sister Margaret Mahdi and the 4 sons and grandchildren and siblings and cousins and everyone. But me and Sister Margaret, we always, she's very kind to us, but you knew him as a friend, as a companion. What would you like to say about Brother Benny Mahdi?
Oh, wow. I have a very deep love for Brother Benny. Brother Benny taught me as a young man so many lessons. So many lessons. He was the first one to allow me to be with him and witness the comings and goings of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. It was Brother Benny Mo that brought me my first 2 brand new suits as an FOI. It was Brother Benny Mo who was instrumental in me having my first Holy Quran new, Maulana Muhammad Ali. It was Brother Benny Mo and his observance of duty to his wife, his then wife, Sister Diane,
yes, sir,
and to all his wonderful children. It was he that showed me how to go in the markets and pick food out. It was him that showed me how to check the tops on the milk, the gallon of milk, and on the water. It was he that showed me that. It was he that stood with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan when the Jews threatened to come to the final call to harm his life. It was Benny Mo that was out there, and he had me with him in 1984. It was Benny Mo who, when the Jews had a very nasty, evil cartoon of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan on an operating table, and 2 Jewish doctors had a saw in their hand, and they had the incision mark on our father's neck as though this was where they were going to cut. They wanted to separate the head from the body. It was Brother Benny Mo, under instructions, they went down to a big Jewish gala downtown Chicago. I think it was at the Conrad Hilton Hotel. It was Brother Benny Mo that took the cartoon down there. I was with him. And somehow he found a yarmulke, the little bitty hat that, some of the Jews wear. And he put it on. And he went to the head table of this event and slammed the cartoon picture on the table in their face. And yeah, we skedaddled out of there now, though. We wasn't bopping. We was getting it. We was getting it. But it was Brother Benny Mo that did that. In fact, I used to call him Benny Lowenstein. He went down there like that. It was Brother Benny who I heard the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan say that as long as you stay with me, you nor your family will never go hungry. It was Benny Mo whose family never went hungry, meaning he never left the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. It was Benny Mo, even before me, on your dad's team. It was E1 and it was E2. That was Brother Benny. He was E2. Brother Richard Muhammad was E3 for a while, and then I became E4. And that's how that went. E2 to E4. Come on, man. After the it was Brother Benny who was there with his brother Theron.
Mm,
May
mm.
Allah be pleased with him and with them both, who provided the security blanket for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. As he said, he kept the wolves off of him.
Yes,
Those
sir.
two. And now we can see that in the progeny of Brother Benny and Benny Jr., of course, and Wali and Fard and Elijah,
Yes,
and of
sir.
course the multi-talented, multifaceted, talented Sister Margaret and all of their family now. A great man, a man of humility, a very humble man, but a fierce man when it came to defense of the messenger and defense of the believers and defense of the faith of Islam. A very fierce man, very fierce. And there are things that have happened that, hey, you don't speak about them. But those that know, they know. Brother Benny will always have a place in our heart for his sacrifice, for his giving everything. And I'll finish on this note. I heard him tell the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan one day, he said, Minister, I don't have any money. I don't have anything to give you. I can only give you my sons.
Mm.
I heard him say that. Okay? And that's why you see his sons today. They all warriors. Because he didn't know that he was giving his sons over to a man who is backed by God and Christ, who will be now known as Al-Masih.
Mm.
Oh yeah, yeah. We honor Brother Benny, man. A lot of stories, Brother Joshua, we can talk about it, but we just can't talk about it on this forum, brother.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All praise is due to Allah, and people are showing love all around the world. Thank you all for watching. Sister Minister Aisha says teach on gold. Brother Kelvin Stevenson says boom. Sister Sheila Muhammad says happy Founders Day. Brother Ron Wells says yes, sir, teach. Sister Miriam ASA, Alaikum Salam, ma'am. Sister Minister Aisha says beryl is one of the most expensive gems. Brother Michael, all praises due to Allah. Sister Angelica, go ahead. Brother Benny, Sister Naima, all praises due to Allah. All praise to Allah for brother holding the line. Oh, this is Brother Ron. I think this is his first time watching. Sister Angelita, thank you for sharing the history of one of our fierce soldiers. All praise to Allah. Thank you all, everyone who was watching and showing love all around the world. My next, I want to go right back. 1984. So this is before the minister has publicly, many of the miracles and things that he's accomplished were known and has been produced to people in Chicago. This is the early days of the rebuilding. What made you stand strong then before you could see necessarily all of the things that we've been able to see and be fearless back then before, like, how did you know in 1984 that you were willing to put your life on the line and things of that nature?
I um I um I didn't know I was strong. I I didn't know that. All I knew was that I wanted to help a man who I was slowly beginning to realize meant everything to the future of Black people. I didn't know that I was strong. I didn't know none of that. What I know is that there were men who I saw helping him, who were of great strength to me. Brother Benny, first and foremost. My brother Mustafa Farrakhan Muhammad, always at his father's side. never tired, never looking to be relieved, going night and day, unlike anybody. Unlike anybody. There were other men. There was Khalid Abdul Muhammad. There were some of the great officers in Chicago, Brother Richard Muhammad, Brother Sabir Omar Muhammad,
Mm.
Brother, in them days, Brother Lieutenant Riley. There was Brother Joseph. There was Brother Donald. These were the pioneers.
Yes, sir.
There were great men. They had, you know him as Dr. Benny, that would always introduce the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and hold down the broadcast. I didn't feel alone. I didn't have to stand out. I was in ranks.
Yes,
See,
sir.
Allah loves those ranging in ranks. I was just one in ranks. But damn, if you in ranks, even if you're a little afraid, you can hide it because you in ranks, right?
Yes, sir.
But
Yes, sir.
yeah, I wasn't afraid, but I'm looking at warriors. I said, damn. There was some that you don't know of. There was a great brother Gerald. There was a brother that served as the first officer, Brother Robert Muhammad. These were great men. Very seldom did men have jobs in those days because it was about building a nation. So everybody worked all the time. Then you had the great Abdul Akbar. Ooh, he seemed so fearless to me. Then the great Abdul Wahid Muhammad.
Yes, sir.
Fearless, fearless. Then you had Abdul Wali Muhammad. Fearless, fearless. You see, Brother James G came from Cincinnati.
Yes, sir.
Humble, but fearless. Fearless. So there was a ranks of men. Some you know, some you don't know. Some may have transitioned on. Some you may see them in bad shape. You had the great Brother Barney. Barney wasn't known as actual facts then. He was Brother Barney.
Yes, sir.
You see, you had other men like Brother Billy Muhammad. These were the great men, man. Brother George. Some say he lost his mind, you know. Then you had men that were killed. I know soldiers, I know, who were so distraught, they literally stood before a freight train to end their life. I mean, think about that. That you are so hurt that you would literally stand before a freight train. I know 3 men personally who committed suicide. No, sir. I know 4 men who committed suicide. See, when you come to a cause and for whatever reason, it ain't working out how you thought. See, how do you handle that disappointment? The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has taught us about Iblis. Iblis was among the angels.
Yes, sir.
But Allah says in Quran that Iblis was of those who was disappointed. Judas was disappointed. See, all are going to experience disappointment, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has taught.
Yes,
but
sir.
how do you handle it? Are you going to go to the extreme and end your life and deprive your nation of the gifts that Almighty Allah has put in you for the advancement of the nation? Is really a selfish act. So no, brother, I didn't see myself as strong. I surrounded myself in the study of the word. But I didn't want to be one of these sponges that just was top heavy and sunk to the bottom. I wanted to work in the field with the people to try the word out and increase and sharpen my understanding of it. See, you can study all day, but if there's no practical application, then you're just theorizing. And this is why many are not able to endure as the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has taught us, the vicissitudes or the ups and downs of life. You study, you sound heavy, as he said, you sound so smart. But where is your experience at?
Mm.
Many of us who have been fortunate to even be in positions of responsibility today, we sound great. But practically, what have we done to build our faith? This is why the life, my brother, and I'm going to be quiet. This is why the life of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is so important to study.
Yes, sir.
He ain't just somebody standing up because he studied. He went out. He went out in the streets. He talked to the people. I mean, I watch my brothers, they want to be behind a mic, but how many would run behind the paddy wagon after you witness a young girl get beat up by the police and you chase the paddy wagon down to make sure that the police don't harm that child? How many would do that? How many would run into a house after they trying to kill you and your wife and your children and going there for, I think he said it was a little over $18 in a jar, but it was the believer's charity. He fought through smoke and flame to secure that money. And shit, I seen some of them talk about when government officials knocked on their door, they sent their spouse down or they put a shirt on. You didn't go and confront them at the door like he would. See, faith, as the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has taught, brother, he said it's like a muscle.
Yes,
he
sir.
said you got to work out with it for it to grow. But if you're not doing anything to grow your faith, what make you think you got some? I mean, really, honestly, what do we do to grow our faith in the great Mahdi? What do we do? That's a question that we have to ask ourselves in the quiet of our own minds. Because we know where our faith is short at.
Yes, sir.
But you got to submit yourself to the training so that Allah can send you through life that will grow your faith in Him if that's what you want.
Beautiful teaching. All praises due to Allah. Excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you for everyone who was watching. My next question for you, sir, is I'm going to go back to the brothers dealing with suicide and mental health. Recently in the nation, it's been, of course in the world, but primarily with people in the nation, mental health is something that is we're still dealing with. What have you heard from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and what have you seen and experienced in your own life to help give advice to us dealing with mental health?
Well, what comes to mind is what the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has taught us that I'd like to share with you, my brother, and your audience. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has taught, he said, quote, all of us are crazy. He said, how can you be sane in an insane world? He said, it's just that some of us can handle our insanity better than others. You see, how can we be sane in a world that is literally crazy in rebellion to Allah? It's just that some of us do a better job handling it than others. If it was not so, go and look at Closing the Gap. Somewhere near 425 or so, where he talks about these scientists who can hurl a thought, a suggestion that literally take you off the path of God. That's what we're dealing with. Some of those fellas are angry at the great Mahdi for breaking the circle of wisdom. So teaches the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And by the way, for the word that's growing among those weak ones, it was in 1975, they began to say that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was giving us myths. myths, meaning stories that were not true. This is why, believer, you have to study what God gives his servant.
Yes,
You
sir.
got to go and look at it for yourself so that your own faith can be edified.
Yes, sir.
You can't just hear it and believe it and don't go further. As I've said on your show, Brother Joshua, Allah is not the best believer, he's the best knower. And he wants us to be like him. Belief is a good start, but he don't want you to stay there. He wants us to grow in certainty of knowledge. But if you don't study, you'll never grow. You don't study and then go and practice what you study, then you'll never have your understanding of the truth refined that you can grow in it.
Yes, sir.
You see? So you that want to say that about myths, be careful because you a myth. I read a letter the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan wrote in 2002. He talked about some who had been placed among us who were actually children of Satan. Not a hypocrite, not an agent, a child of Satan. Think over that.
Yes, yes, sir. All praises due to Allah. Yes, sir. And thank you very much, Brother Captain. Thank you all who are watching. Shout out to our YouTube family. Our Brother Musa, Brother Kente, Brother Daniel E, Sister Hope, Sister Ante, Brother Gentleman, everyone who always continues to show love. Thank you, Brother Ronell from Arizona. Sister Miss Aisha says, yes, sir. The life of the Honorable Minister Farrakhan is our example. And can't wait to upload this to YouTube. I wanted to ask you, sir, let's go right here. So we make sure we spoke about this previously, but I want to make sure that we had it on the record of you having dinner with, being invited to dinner before Savior's Day with our brother, Minister Jabril Muhammad, and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Can you let us know how that came about and let us know what took place, sir?
Yeah, now that you said it, we did, but I don't mind going over it.
Okay, no, since we already did it, I got more for you. I got more for you. Don't even worry about it. Yes, sir.
All right.
My next question for you is you spoke about closing the gap, and then you also spoke to me about the supreme wisdom lessons. Could you explain why that is so important that we deal with supreme wisdom lessons?
Yeah, I wanna give me a second because I wanna parse that word lesson.
Yes, sir.
I think it's very important because I hear us say all the time, well, we got supreme wisdom. We got supreme wisdom. Well, you know, it's like we were talking, Brother Joshua, about people who recite history. It's beautiful to talk about history. It's really beautiful.
Yes, sir.
However, there should be lessons in history. Because after a while, if I'm just talking about history, then you're going to get tired of me after a while. In fact, the Quran calls them stories of old, stories of ancient. They're just stories. Why are they just stories? Because here, what does the word lesson mean? Lesson means reading aloud from the Bible, also something to be learned by a student. See, so the book, the little book, as the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan says, of interplay between the great Mahdi and the great Messiah is called the Supreme Book of Lessons.
Yes, sir.
See, Supreme Book of Lessons, or Supreme Wisdom Lesson Book, pardon me. Supreme Wisdom Lesson Book. Because there's something you're supposed to get of it. Look at the words of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad to his minister as he shared with us one day. He said, his teacher said to him, he said, brother, I don't want you to give the history like I taught it 40 years ago. I want you to give the meaning of it. See, The history is only to get the lesson from it. Otherwise, it becomes irrelevant. See, and this is really why, to me, it's just me talking, why young people kind of get tired of hearing war stories. Because what's the lesson in your story? How does that relate to me today? Because as a young person, I'm having a rough time. I don't really know why I'm here. I don't really know what my purpose is in life. But you inviting me to this way of life and you telling me history, but I don't see its relevance today, because what y'all did yesterday, you're not doing that today. So I need to understand, why are you telling me this? And if we can't answer intelligently, then they turn and walk away. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said young people don't want to be a slave to any religion, any way of life. Don't make them a slave even to your history. That's what you did. Okay, big deal. So what? What are you doing for yourself today? Huh? What are we doing building? The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has said to us that young people are angry today because they don't see a future for themselves. He said, we have not built a future for them. So now we at the end of this world. What is a young person to do? I mean, really, honestly, brother, this is why I would say, as one of his students, we need to humbly revisit the 9 ministries that he gave us. The 9 ministries will give every believer an opportunity to express their gifts and their talents for the advancement of their nation. How could it be Independence Day and we still are not free to express our own gifts and talents? You see, we have to be able to do that. So Allah answered that by giving his servant the 9 ministries. But if you reject the 9 ministries, you don't want nothing to do with it, then is it any wonder why the places are not filling up anymore? We got to keep it a buck. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has taught us that the word, he said, obsolescence of the black man and woman leads to death. What is obsolescence, son? Obsolescence is the state of non-use. So if you're not wise enough to give an opportunity to all the gifts, he told Brother Saad Alim, the great student national secretary, he said, you all have to unpackage the believer. That means they're a gift wrapped up, but you can't do it on your own. You got one little discipline. There's another discipline over there, but 9 ministries, man. 9 ministries, every believer can find an opportunity to express their gifts and talents in the 9 ministries. So we got to push that. Otherwise, we are not quite representing true independence to the believer, because that's where it starts at.
Yes,
and I'm going to say this. When you give the believer the opportunity, you show them how to live a better life and you give them the tools to do it. Don't you know you ain't got to tell nobody to go fish? When a believer can come in 90 days by them accepting the teachings, and we having a program, not a hit and miss, not you better get yours. No, we have a program that mathematically, scientifically, we can better the life of every individual who accepts the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad as taught by his minister. Don't you know, brother, you ain't got to tell nobody to fish no more. Then we'll be where we had those Sunday meetings 2, 3, 4 times a day, because every place will be full. That's why the man called it self-improvement.
Yes,
the
sir.
basis for community development. Ain't no development of the community if there is no self-improvement. And since you're in a position of responsibility, you're responsible for showing me how to improve myself. Don't just burden me with your duty. Help me to do better by myself.
Yes, sir.
Then you ain't got to worry about me fishing. I'm going to bring them in by the busloads. I hope that make a little sense.
Makes perfect sense. Excellent job. And thank you for your great representation, sir, and your transparency. Thank you, everyone who's watching. Brother Minister Van, walaikum salam, sir. Thank you for always watching and showing love, Brother Minister. We want to get you back for a part 2 as well. We have a brief 60-second commercial break for all of the sponsors of the People's Podcast. We are grateful for every like, share, and subscription. Thank you all for every anonymous Cash App. The People's Podcast is truly, we're grateful for everyone who shows love. Shout out to all the People's Podcast affiliates. And we are live with the People's Podcast. Street Premiere Media Production. He has a 4K camera and a drone. He does television and film editing. Please reach out if you need any of that. Sister Naima, Stay On Point Dance Academy. She teaches ballet virtually to young girls all across the country. Sister Miriam, ABC I Love Me children's book and coloring book. My father's book, A Soldier in the Movement of Christ. My 2 books, Cleopatra, which is a children's book, and No Father, No Excuse, both of which are available on Amazon. Excellent. And please let us know which city you all are watching the People's Podcast. And if you have any guest suggestions, feel free to let us know in the comments across all platforms. Thank you very much. My next question for you, sir. Thank you, everyone who's watching. We are, we got some deep subjects today. I wanted to ask you, sir, dealing with, what was it like when Savior's Day, the minister first announced that he had prostate cancer? What was the climate like during that time period? And how did your faith, withstand seeing the minister have to fight through that?
Well, we were fortunate to know of it before it was announced. If you recall, when it was first conveyed to him, his condition, he said he thought he could go away to the mountains and pray. Two of my brothers, the great brother Rashad and the great brother Arum, accompanied him to Arizona and spent several weeks with him. This is when he was in Arizona and he told us of his encounter with that bull.
Yes, sir.
That was that time. The doctors had told him that he was like a car. Well, all the accessories were on, the light, the horn, the wipers, the air conditioner, radio, but the engine wasn't running. That was his condition. My faith in Allah and his servant, it never wavered. Never. I had read the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, particularly in How to Eat to Live, book number 2, I think somewhere around page 69, where he talks about that he suffered everything that you suffer. So you won't have an excuse. He said that the messenger would suffer everything that you would suffer, but he would not suffer death. Right there in How to Eat to Live, I think, I can be, fact checked, but I think around page 69 or so, I knew that whatever it was, he would survive. He had shared some things with this fella that I knew he was not going out like that. I've heard him say in the early days, he told the devils, he said, this body you cannot have.
Mm.
Think about that. There are some, and I'm one of them, where he said they won't find a body.
Mm. Mm.
See, they won't find a body. In fact, he said, some of you are going to see me ascend in the clouds of heaven.
Mm. Mm.
Now, I want to say this because, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, he is guided by Allah and his Christ with every word and every action. And he may not pay attention to who's listening, but they do. They know. And Allah says in Quran, he said he holds you accountable for what's in your mind.
Yes, sir.
See, you can say what he said all day, but that don't mean you believe it.
Mm.
And I think sometimes we get it twisted because somebody can convey a conversation or convey a sentence or a paragraph, and you think that the conveyor believes as the messenger believes. Not so.
Mm.
Not so. In fact, you're going to see many people starting to fade. It's already happening now. Or it may not look physically, but it's happening spiritually.
Mm.
You see the disrespect growing for him right around him. When you don't hear, again, the word honorable, when you say his title, see,
Yes.
that's an indicator of something. So, because you hear it, that don't mean you believe it.
Mm.
The Bible says one man builds and another man inhabits, meaning you might have been right there to hear it, but you'll tell the person who actually will believe it.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
You feel me?
Yes, sir.
We don't pay good attention to prophecy. We just don't like it. We rather watch TikTok and all that stuff. And if you want to be entertained, go ahead. But the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has warned us that famine is not on the way, Josh, it's here. And if you and I are not busy working to make provisions for ourselves and our loved ones for 30, 60, 90 days, then what do you really believe? See, after a minute, brother, it's going to be that time to see who's who for real. Not who's who with your mouth,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
but what have you moved out on in the name of your faith? Famine is here, bro. The dollar bill, Josh, has lost 24% of its value since 2020. That meant if you had a $100 bill in the bank in 2020, you only got $76 in the bank right now, according to the spending power of that $100 bill. So it's here. So I wasn't never worried about him. In fact, he's given us instruction. He said, don't worry about me. He said, I worry over you.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
It's like us saying, I love you, brother minister. And he said, I love you too. And you say, I love you more. He says, stop it. He said, have you given your life for me like I've given my life for you?
Mm.
See,
Mm.
we got to stop with the fantastic foolishness. A man that has given up everything for our salvation, you're not going to top him in giving. You're not going to top him in loving. Stop it. Work on yourself so that when you say, I love you, everything in your being is in agreement with what's coming out of your mouth. That's the real power, bro. That's what they call strength of conviction. So again, I was never worried about him. Never, never. Do I pray for him? Absolutely. I pray that he gets to where his father promised him he would go.
Mm.
But he said, there are some hypocrites that don't want me to go to the will.
Mm.
Think about that. I always recite on your show, page 219, 217 of Closing the Gap.
Yes, sir.
The
Yes, sir.
Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan talks about those disciples who did not necessarily agree with nor believe what he was saying to them. Well, if you go into the will and I don't believe it, then what does that make me?
Mm, mm.
But now he said that interview that I'm reciting was in 2002. It's now 2024. So now you went from may not necessarily be a disbeliever to now he called you a hypocrite 20 years later.
Mm, mm, mm.
Because the believer believes in what has been revealed to the messenger, brother. That's the only standard of your belief. If you don't believe as he believed, then how are you really a believer? Did you know, brother, that there was a time he used the word black Muslim Jew?
Mm, mm, mm.
Then he said black Muslim Judas factor Jew.
Mm.
Whoa, whoa. I'm not going to go into that now, but we should study. Somebody out there got the notes at that believers meeting where he used those two terms
Yes, sir.
and he explained what he meant. Well, I wasn't worried about him, brother, to answer your question, but I want to go back because I don't think I did a good job in answering the question about mental health. Mental health is afflicting our young people. And as the great Dr. Wesley has cited to us, the marijuana that's coming out of the dispensaries today is the product of a military experiment in the 60s. And he said to us that young people, their brains are not fully developed until they reach the age of 26. So if you're a young person smoking marijuana and you're not 26 and your brain is not developed, there's a fantastic chance of you developing psychosis. That's a word to parse, Josh, psychosis.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It's a big word because a lot of the mental health instability in our community is directly related to the marijuana coming out of these dispensaries. And I see young people, and I know young people right around me that have developed psychosis and actually had to be institutionalized. It is the saddest thing, brother.
Yes, sir.
And we're going to have to help our people to get the treatment that we deserve. Right now, I don't know if we got skilled mental health professionals.
Mm.
I don't really know. I mean, we're so loosey-goosey now and so slanderous and libelous and scandal spreading and rumor mongering. It's hard even to confide in one another. Is that right, brother?
Facts.
So we got problems, but we don't even trust the person that we should be letting them know that we got a problem. Can you imagine members of the Nation of Islam going hungry and not even having enough trust and confidence to say, hey, I don't have any food? There should be no Muslim in the Nation of Islam, brother, that is hungry. We got all these farms. We got all these farmers. But what we don't have is organizational unity. We should work to make sure every Muslim has a decent meal to eat, if it's just beans, soup, and a wheat roll. Do you really think that the day of service that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan put us on during the month of Ramadan was just for a day?
Mm, mm, mm.
You really think that was just for a day? He said, go knock on the doors of your poor people and offer them a meal. We didn't do that. We stood in the damn streets and gave it to anybody riding by. Well, if you ride and you ain't hungry.
Mm, mm, mm.
But we take guidance and yet we'll say he's the Messiah. Well, obey him if that's what you say he is. If he say knock on the door, don't stand in the street and handing in somebody's car that's riding by fat, lavish? If he is what you say with your lip, then our obedience should be greater. But mental health is a problem, and it's going to continue to be a problem as this world closes down and all the institutions that our people were trained to look up to help them are failing us. People are going to collapse, brother. They're going to lose their minds. What are we going to do? And I want to say one more thing on that point, Josh.
Yes, sir.
I hope this is related. I want to read, I don't want to read it, I'll just say it. In the book that's in the public domain, The Restrictive Law of Islam is Our Success.
Yes, sir.
The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan asks us the question, somewhere around page 150, 151. He said, what is the business of the nation? He said, our business is the business of the resurrection. He said, our business is not selling bean pies. It is not selling the Final Call newspaper. He said, our business is the resurrection of our people. Our business is training people to handle people. Look at how many thousands every week hear the teachings. When are we going to humble ourselves to access why we don't do a better job in retaining the people who hear the truth? See, that takes a degree of humility. This is not, I'm not hating on none of my brothers and sisters laboring. Please don't misunderstand. What I am saying, though, is that we need to accept responsibility for what is not happening. How you going to blame the dead? You see, it's the dead's fault. Wait a minute, I thought I was dead. I don't have any blame on me. Right? That's why we're called the dead. It's only when we're risen in consciousness that we are now held accountable for our actions. So we need to make things more practical for our people. A day of service was not a day during Ramadan. This is what we should be about. This is what we should be doing, man. And we should be getting those who are better skilled in handling people to train us on how to do it. We brutalize the hell out of people and then wonder why they don't come back. We got to stop that.
Yes, sir.
Did you know, and last point, there was a time the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan wanted a brother that you know. He calls himself sane, but he was Brother Gregory X. Brother Gregory X was assigned at the Final Call Administration building the job of a greeter. He was to greet the people as they was coming in to hear the message. He wanted us to greet the people with a smile. We be scaring the hell out of people, mean mugging them. Why do I want to come back to this shit? Let me up out of here. We have to learn how to treat our people as God has treated us.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And the greatest example of that among us is the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. There ain't not one of us that can walk away saying he mistreated us. Not one. So, on that note, thank you, brother, for letting me go back over that. Thank you for bearing with me.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. And thank you, Sister Charlotte says, yes, sir, that part. People showing love all around the world. Thank you, Brother Elijah. Peace to the People's Podcast. Brother Joshua, walaikum salam, sir. Brother Gerald, yes, sir. Brother Gerald, I will message you. Thank you very much. Sister Sheila, our beloved Sister Dr. Ava Muhammad said, truth be told. Beautiful. Yes, sir. People are bearing witness to everything that you're saying. And she said, truth be told. Excellent. I wanted just to bear witness to you, sir, when you were speaking about the young people. I know plenty of people working with drill teams and squads and things of that nature who, many of them nation babies, who have done some type of drug, whatever it is, and then they've gone to never be the same. And I'm praying and sending positive energy to everyone who was affected and the family members who are affected by that, because it's real and it's a sad sight to see, and it's something that we all are dealing with. And I've
You know,
been dealing with it.
Josh, when you said that, brother, you make me think of a sermon, a series of sermons the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan delivered to us that I would humbly suggest every believer
Mm.
go back and listen to, find it. And the title of the series was called Problems in Relationships. The first one, I think, was in November of 1988. Why are you saying that? That's old. Well, your problem not old, partner. You
Mm.
got a problem today in relationships. And the problem is not drugs. The problem is not alcohol. He said those are symptoms of the problem. When you got a runny nose, you don't treat a runny nose. You got to find out what's making the nose run, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So the alcohol and the drugs ain't the problem. It's a symptom. The problem, he said, is problems in relationships. Problem with your brother, problem with your sister, problem with your aunt, your uncle, your mother, your father, your grandmother. But ultimately, the real problem is with Almighty Allah Himself.
Mm. Mm.
So problems in relationship is what produces substance and alcohol abuse in the black man and woman.
Mm. Mm.
The man, brother, the man has given us so many answers to the problems that we're facing today. But Allah says, woe to the rejectors.
Yes, sir.
See, we reject it and then wonder why our life is full of woe. Just submit, just humble ourselves and study and pray and learn to understand and go out and share what you learn with your people, man. I want Allah to smile on me. I don't want him to frown and say, ah, oh, brother, I don't want that.
Yes, sir.
But who does? We're trying to save ourselves. See, go and read Ezekiel, another prophecy.
Mm.
When
Mm.
you warn the people, or you see the people in wickedness and you warn them not, say they will surely die, but their blood will be required at your hand.
That's right. That's right.
You see the people in their wickedness and you warn them, they will die, but you have delivered your soul. Wow. So how are you going to deliver 40 million or more and you ain't deliver your own soul first?
Yes, sir. You teacher, Bro Ali, and people are bearing witness all across the country and all around the world. Thank you to Brother Marshall, who sends the greetings. Thank you very much, Brother Marshall, for watching, and thank you everyone who continues to show love to the People's Podcast. Right now, I want to go to a quote from you, Brother Captain. June 2nd on Facebook, via Facebook. Quote, remember, it took 32 years for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan to understand his more than a vision-like experience. Slow down, don't rush it. Public service announcement, end quote. Can you explain why you made that quote why you wrote that status on Facebook?
I must have had too much coffee that morning. No, no, seriously, brother. You know, as I, and I'm not no different than nobody. I love reflecting on his life. I often wonder why, of all the billions and billions of people on this earth, that I was permitted by Allah to study a man that the world has been looking for 2,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we take it for granted. 2,000 years? That's a long time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That somebody been looking for a human being. So I I reflect a lot, as most do. And I went back over what I knew of his experience. When he first had the experience, he woke up the next day, he had forgotten.
Mm.
He didn't even know what anything had happened to him. He just woke up. There was an earthquake in Mexico 2 days later, and it brought the vision like experience back to him. And he shared it with Mother Khadija and Mother Tainetta Muhammad. May Allah be pleased with her. And he shared it with them. And then he shared it with his brother, friend, and companion, Brother Jabril Muhammad. And then, as they were headed to New York City for one of the great important events in the rebuilding work of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, the Great Power at Last sermon, New York City, October 7th, 1985. Brother Jabril says that our father began to recite to him for the first time in depth the more than vision like experience.
Mm.
And he said that our father was talking, but he didn't know what had happened. It seemed as though he was not aware of what had happened. Brother Jabril recorded it, and then he turned away and started weeping.
Mm.
So here's something that happened to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. He didn't run to the mountain. Hey, I had a dream. This is what God showed me.
Mm.
He didn't say nothing. He began to talk about it for a little. But if you remember, my brother, he said that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad told him that you had one more thing to do.
Yes, sir.
And then you could come again to the wheel, and I will permit you to see me face to face. So he said he worked like heck trying to find out what the one more thing was. And it didn't crystallize for him until what? 2007.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
32 years later, he finally completely understood the more than vision like experience. So I was really trying to exhort young people that, yes, as the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has taught us, he said, many of us who are young, we begin to have feelings. He said, you begin to feel that you're going to have a great future. He said, but what you need is the knowledge of yourself and how to protect yourself so that you can have that future. And then he said, praise be to Allah. See, you know it. Many young brothers and sisters who are, you say, nation babies know it. But the problem is you don't see it.
Mm. Mm.
See, so belief is not what you see, it's belief in the unseen.
Yes, sir.
If you really believe that you have a great future, then can't nobody knock you off of that thought. Nobody can take it away from you. You're going to hold on until Allah himself manifests that great future. You understand?
Yes,
So the
sir.
man held on for 32 years and then was guided by God to hold the place where? At the Watergate Hotel.
Mm.
Well, why is that important? The Watergate Hotel also is the name of the scandal that led to the demise of Richard Milhausen Nixon.
That's right. That's right.
Do you know why Nixon sent G. Gordon Liddy and Mr. Hunt and others into that place? They were going after some documents that were in the possession of the Democratic National Party. Do you know what those documents were? It's alleged that those documents incriminated many Jewish people, along with Richard Milhous Nixon, Jacob Rubenstein, known as Jack Ruby. It incriminated Jews and members of the government, including the Central Intelligence Agency, in the assassination of John Fitzgerald Kennedy, brother.
Yes, sir.
So he knew that that was a very significant place in the history of America. And remember, it was Richard Nixon who declared a war on black people in the name of a war on drugs. Members of his staff confessed later on that the war on drugs was not about drugs. It was a war on black people. Richard Milhous Nixon did that, brother. Yeah. Many, oh man. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan had a man in 2017. He was part of a plenary session at Saviour's Day in Detroit. The plenary session, and I would advise all to go back. If you want to know more about Benjamin Netanyahu, you need to go back to the plenary session from 2017. There was a man there at the plenary session was called War on Islam, 9/11 revealed, exposed, and discovered. Brother Iliad Rashad, the great researcher, hosted that plenary session. But they talked about 9/11, and the last presenter, a great scholar by the name of Christopher Bolin, he went deep into Benjamin Netanyahu's history. Saviour's Day, our father said to the world that his father wanted him to study Benjamin Netanyahu. Because you got to think, how could a man, along with his defense cabinet, make a toast to their own citizens who they know were about to be murdered? And the New York Times bore witness to the revelation a week later. They said Netanyahu knew and sanctioned it. Bibi Netanyahu is the father or the godfather of Jared Kushner, who is the son-in-law of Donald John Trump. As you were saying, he all in the mix.
Yes.
They've been planning 9/11, brother, since 1979. They've been planning a war on terror since 1979. Well, who is Benjamin Netanyahu that God will show his servant him? Benjamin Netanyahu's dad was a director of an organization called the Irgun. They were a group of terrorists who terrorized Palestinians all the way back to the 40s, bro. His daddy was a terrorist. The Likud party was formed as a result of another big terrorist named Menachem Begin and another one named Yitzhak Chavez. They were two terrorists, and they formed the Likud party that Benjamin Netanyahu proudly represents. Go back and look at the Savior's Day where our father talked about Mr. Netanyahu has a vision called Eretz Israel.
Yes,
they want to expand Israel and have it in a lot of countries at the same time. They want Jerusalem to be the capital of the earth. This is Benjamin Netanyahu. And if you look at the news today, the war, the military, the IDF is at odds with him right now. They don't want to go on. They want a truce with Hamas right now. Benjamin Netanyahu knows that if the war stops now, he will be indicted in all likelihood in prison as a criminal. The man who helped form the Likud party, Menachem Begin.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I want you to listen to this. Menachem Begin became the prime minister of Israel in 1977. Well, what happened, Joshua, in the history of the Nation of Islam in 1977, sir? Come on, quick thinking, fast moving,
Oh, I
right
thought it was
down to the minute,
I thought it was
right
a
down
rhetorical
to the
question,
mind.
sir.
It ain't no rhetorical nothing. let me help you.
Please,
The
because
Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan stood up to rebuild the work of his father. In the midst of all the slander, the mudslinging, the evil spoke of, they had disrespected his messengership, called him a dirty old man. One man stood up to restore his name, his honor, and his teachings. Simultaneously, Menachem Begin became the prime minister of Israel. The next year, he invaded Lebanon. He and Yitzhak Shimon, they killed many Palestinians, brother. They also murdered diplomats in cold blood. That group stole nuclear secrets from America and started the Israeli atomic weapon program. The brothers and sisters of the original Hebrew Israelite nation, founded by Rabbi Ben Ami,
yes, sir.
former fruit of Islam. The devil settled them in Dimona, Israel, which is where the nuclear bombs are stored. They were using our poor brothers and sisters as literal human shields to protect their nuclear weapon program, unsuspecting, unknown to our brothers and sisters. This is the people that produced Bibi Netanyahu. They have something called the Hannibal Doctrine, where in the case that Israeli citizens are held hostage, the Hannibal Doctrine allows them the ability to kill the hostages and take the negotiation strength away from whatever enemy captured their hostages, brother. Did you know that?
No, sir.
Yeah, this is Bibi Netanyahu. This is the Likud party founded by Menachem Begin, Yitzhak Shimon, whatever his name is. Allah forgive me for not remembering it clearly. But these were gangsters and terrorists. And they formed this political party that Benjamin Netanyahu holds up right now. Thank you, Yitzhak Shamir. Yeah. This is why our Father opened up on him. And in fact, he's so kind and so perfectly guided, he introduced us to Mr. Netanyahu Savior's Day 2017 at that plenary session. But we didn't even pay it no mind. We didn't even think about it. The presenter, Mr. Boland, said that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan was the only great religious leader in America to describe 9/11 as a black bag or operation. It was a false flag operation. It was staged by Zionists. The man, he said, his courage is unbelievable. But we don't pay it no mind. We ain't gave it no thought. Some of us even forgot that the 4th of July is a national holiday. Damn. If we're forgetting now and the man is here, what state of mind will we be in when he leaves us? Well, that's all I got to say about that.
Yes, sir. Excellent, Red Captain. And thank you very much. You are breaking things down for us. People are showing love. Thank you all very much. Thank you, Brother Kente says, Alaikum Salam, happy Founders Day. Sister Angelita says, belief is what you believe, not what you see. Wow. Line up the history, make it relevant. Sister Charlotte, teach brother. I co-see teacher. And people just bear witness. Thank you, Sister Miriam Celeste, for showing love as well. I wanted to ask you one last question, Brother Captain. Very serious subjects, various things we've been dealing with, but I wanted to know, how have you been unwinding in any form of music, any form of just relaxation outside? I know studying. Let me say it off the top. I know studying, I know it's just whatever. But I just want to know, have you been able to crossword puzzle, chess, checkers, anything to, to help unwind?
Man, I'm a news junkie.
Mm.
I have a what they call a streaming media device.
Okay.
And it's for your audience, it's a Fire Stick on steroids. It's Roku on steroids. If I can't access 500,000 channels, I can't access one. If it's in the movie house, I can see it in my house. I don't really watch movies because, listen, man. To me, let me relax when we're all inside and we're forced to be inside. We had a trial run during COVID, during the lockdown.
Yes, sir. Yes,
and then
sir.
What happened? Divorces went through the roof. Spousal abuse went through the roof. Divorces went through the roof. Sibling fighting went through the roof. Why? Because when we were forced to be with one another, we realized we really didn't like one another. So I don't need to get away from nothing. I need to study me so that I can be pleasant for the people around me. I don't want them to say, listen, we took a vote and we'd be like the Godfather, Tom, you're out. You're out, Tom. Get out of this house. You a hell breaker. You breaking the peace. Get out of here. Brother, we're going to be forced to live with one another. Families are going to have to combine to survive. You can see it now. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, since he is the publisher of the Final Call newspaper, put on the Final Call newspaper 2 years ago, Civil War in 2024. The man said, I give you tomorrow's news in advance. Where the hell is the myth of that, you damnable demons? Say that to one of the students. Y'all want to pick off the weak ones. Come on and get some. I'll be like X. X gonna give it to you. Gonna give it to you. Huh? Come on with it. He said, look, man, look. Find the letter for Savior's Day. Look at what the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said. The war is on. It's the liar against the truth teller. Right against wrong. God against the devil. It's the day of war, man. I don't need no goddamn relax. I relax kicking your ass. That's how I relax. Let's get it in. Because I'm fighting for my survival. Pardon my language. I don't want to turn nobody off. But guess what? This is the day of war. You want to be one of them, what's the little deer name? The little soft deer, Bambi? You want to be Bambi? Then go ahead. Stick your head in the dirt and just die there. This is the day of war. Survival is not glamorous. It's not pretty. You surviving. You ain't got no lights, no electricity, no water. What are you going to do? Do you have water stored up? And what does it look like when the toilet don't flush? How is that? We better understand what survival looks like and try to wrap our minds around the idea of it, because it ain't glamorous. What happens when you trying to warm up your little food that you got canned, and you got your lit burner, and you warming up some soup, and it's 1 a.m, and the zombies smell your food. What you gonna do? What you gonna do? You gotta think about this. This ain't no time to be relaxed. This is the time to be as diligent as possible. Listen, man, what is going to happen if they send Mr. Trump to prison July 11th? What will America look like? See, they only want you to think about it. They done took it off the burner. They got you thinking about Joseph Robinette Biden. But they were looking to sentence Mr. Trump. Do you know why they pushed it back? Because they know revolution is here. So they say, we can't sentence him July 11th. Push it back to September. Brother, it's going down. Go and look at what's on the TV, Josh. All you see now is white people advertising survival gear, portable power supplies, Patriot 30 days worth of food. What the hell do you think is going on in America? Them white people, they ain't relaxed. They working like hell to prepare to survive. Once the door is closed and you can't go out, relax then. Relax then. You got 500 gallons of water. How many gallons of water does each person in their family need per day, per week, per month? We ain't got time to relax, bro. We ain't got time for frivolous things right now. Well, brother, that sounds like panicky. Really? Talk to somebody that's been at your father's home in New Buffalo. He got a grocery store there. Oh. The joke is, I see, said the blind man to his deaf wife as he covered his eyes from the sun. It's not a game, bro. If you behind, you ain't got no time to relax. When you got everything together and you tight, your family tight, you got medical supplies, you got water, you got everything to survive in 30-day increments, 30, 60, 90 days, then you can take a breather. Kick back and listen to some old hip hop if that's what you want to do, or some old jazz, or some old Barry White. Right now, I don't need Barry, I don't need Jay-Z, I don't need none of that, because all them ninjas is going to put you right to sleep. And what music does, it sends you back. You leave present time with music. When you listen to music, brother, you're not in present time. It sends you back. And in that going back, that's death. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said that the Black community and all of humanity should observe the general orders. Think about that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
To walk my post in a perfect manner, keeping always on the alert. On the alert for who? On the alert for an enemy that wishes to thwart my effort to secure myself. Mentally, morally, spiritually. How you going to teach about a dollar when it's lost all its value? That's insanity. Did you know, Josh, that Franklin Delano Roosevelt, during the Depression, he ordered the government to confiscate all gold and silver? Did you know that right now, brother, you can go buy gold from Costco and Walmart? What's that about? You can use a credit card to buy gold. You can use OPM to buy gold. Gold ain't going nowhere. You may default on the credit card, but you got the gold. But check it. When FDR confiscated all the gold and silver, he could not confiscate antique coins. So I know some believers right now, they got their chest stuck out because they got some gold bars, some gold bullion. But when the devil come and knock on the door or kick the door in and say, you got gold, it's registered here, and take your gold, you ain't got nothing. But if you secure your gold in antique coins dated prior to 1933, they cannot confiscate that.
Mm, mm.
A survival tip from your brother. You feel me, brother?
Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. In fact, about it, news reports say that over 260 banks stand to default. I've talked about this before, but I want to say it real quick. Default means, say your money is in First National Bank. Say First National Bank got $140 million of people's money. They can declare what they call a bail-in, courtesy of Christopher Dodd and Barney Frank. It's called the Dodd-Frank Bank law of 2008 that Barack Hussein Obama signed as law. The government said, well, we ain't bailing banks out no more. But what we'll do, we'll let you confiscate all the money of the poor people whose money you got in the bank, and we'll call it a bail-in. You know these glitches where people go to the bank and they can't get their money out, like Wells Fargo and Chase? Those are dry runs, brother. The wise of this world, they know this. You know, when it says FDI insured up to 250K and you be happy pumping your chest, my money's insured. The FDIC ain't got enough money to cover all the money in the banks. What are you going to do when you need to pay your rent and your money been taken by your own bank? This is why we need to pool our resources and talk about setting up our own institution. We should have credit. I know Negro pastors that got credit unions. You mean the people that's in the class of God can't open up a credit union or two so we can put our money in there? And then we can turn that money into real equity, i.e. land, i.e. precious metals. Like I said earlier, gold is $2,400 an ounce, but it's being suppressed by the bankers because they don't want you to go into a panic. But some analysts say an ounce of gold, as opposed to 2,400, it should be at $41,000 an ounce right now. Right now. But if they did that, it'd be panic in the streets. But we in the class of God, we should know these things. And when we have conversation, we should talk about intelligent, pragmatic, and practical ways to survive the fall of America. Don't tell me, doggone it, the building is falling, and you stand there and get hit by the building that you say was falling. Something wrong. If America is falling, then where is our preparation? Every Muslim should be provided for, or at least given the chance. That makes sense, brother.
Yes, sir.
Praise be to Allah.
Praise be to Allah. Thank you, Red Captain, and thank you very much. People are showing you love all around the world. Thank you, Sister Angelita. Thank you to our brother, the great artist, Brother Lee. Thank you for showing love, sir. Thank you very much. Make sure we all support our brother on all streaming platforms. Brother Lee makes great music. Brother Lee. Sister, praise be, Ra Hotep. He says, Captain Wali, assalamu alaikum, brother. Always been a solid soldier. Thank you all very much. Everyone who was watching, Brother Marshall, Sister Charlotte, thank you all very much. He says, thank you, Captain, and people are just bearing witness. Thank you to everyone who was watching now. Thank you, everyone who's going to watch on YouTube later, inshallah. Also, Brother Captain, I just want to make sure that you know, on behalf of myself, my family, and the viewing audience of the People's Podcast, that we salute you, sir. We thank Allah for you and all of the hard work that you put in the past, in the present, and inshallah into the future. May Allah continue to bless you and your family. Thank you very much for always being kind to us and showing love to the believers and being hard on the disbelievers. But thank you for being kind to me personally. That means a lot to me. This is Joshua Leonard Muhammad signing off of the People's Podcast. Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Well, alaikum salam, sir, and thank you for the great honor of being on your very precious platform. I'm very grateful and deeply humbled, brother. Thank you.
All praises to Allah. Thank you all for watching. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.